don't have to spend it all.
Question's a little bit more than
You think? Well, now, they were able to remove about $800,000 if you look at the document that, the clerk left on your.
that. Oh, wait, I have a question about that part too.
Okay. She's back there.
Yeah, everybody's here, they're in the back.
Lump sum last year?
Some of them. Most of the ones that got lump sum last year, y'all recognized as community partners. The only others that I can think of are communities and schools, St. John's.
St. John, yeah. That worked.
No, Epworth got ARPA.
Okay.
Wiley Kennedy.
Those are the only ones that,
Wiley Kennedy.
huh?
Wiley Kennedy.
Okay. Yeah, those are the ones I can, the ones you named is the ones I had checks by, yeah.
Okay.
How are you? All right. Hey, I know I probably should know this, but I don't want to offend you. It is 19, I was right. Somebody else is trying to do it. Yeah, yeah. Nice. Yeah.
It is,
Yeah.
I.
All right, good afternoon.
Good.
Oh, thank you. So good to be back together. All right, we're gonna call the Community Impact Grants Committee meeting together to order. September 12th. Madam Clerk, would you call the roll?
Brenham,
Present.
Livingston,
Here?
Barron,
Here.
Mackey,
Here.
English.
Present.
We have a quorum.
Thank you. And in addition, I believe, Madam Clerk, you mentioned that we have another counselor online, Councilwoman Newton. Thank you for joining us. The next item on our agenda is approval of the minutes from August 29th, 2023. Do we have any changes to the minutes as presented?
Move to approve.
Second?
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Madam Clerk?
Brenham,
Yes.
Livingston,
Yes.
Barron,
Yes.
Mackey,
Yes.
English.
Yes.
Motion approved.
Thank you. Next is adoption of the agenda. Is Mr. Brown, any changes to the agenda?
I've received no request for changes, Madam Chair.
Thank you.
Move to approve.
Second.
A motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, Madam Clerk, would you call for the vote?
Brenham,
Yes.
Livingston,
Yes.
Barron,
Yes.
Mackey,
Yes.
English.
Yes.
Motion approved.
Thank you. So the main item on our agenda today for action is application review. Just as a reminder, our last committee meeting, we went through our community partners list and reviewed those applications and made recommendations that will appear before full council. And tonight, or this afternoon rather, we are focused on our other category for community impact grants, which we had allotted 40% of the total budget for community impact grants in our fiscal year 24 budget to give out to nonprofit organizations with a max award amount of $50,000. And so applications were received, they were reviewed by a third party, and they were all scored. And committee members were provided the scoring rubric as well as all applications to review. And so today in the committee meeting, we want to go through all of these and begin to make recommendations for awards. The total amount today that we can award for this category is a total of $872,000. And we have staff that is here to assist us as we go through to answer any questions, but to also help us as we tabulate. So first, I just wanted to open up to committee members. Is there any discussions or comments or questions before we start the recommendation process?
Madam Chair.
You're recognized, Ms. Perrin.
Thank you. First, I'd like to just say thank you to our staff for putting all this together for us, and then also making this process very easy for us to go through, considering the number of applicants that we received. Before we go through the discussion, I would like to just admonish this group that as we look at all the applications, we've talked about geographic equity. We've also talked about linking programs to our strategic plan as well. But I also, as we look at the number of applications that we received and noting the scoring, I hope that we would keep in mind that even though the score does predicate their, or not predicate, the score could very well be perceived as their ability to be able to perform. And so with that, I just want to keep that in mind. I know that there are some programs that are near and dear to many of our hearts, but at the same time, we want to put ourselves at an advantage to be able to provide these services and do them with as little exposure to the county as possible. And that's just, that's really heavy on my heart, because I think that I don't want this process to appear that we're going any way or any shape or form away from having an integral process, and that it may look like that we're cherry picking programs. And so, yeah, let's just keep that in mind, because that's just something that I think that we could skate against and really work against ourselves if we don't. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Barron. All right. So, as a reminder, we received the score ranking order for the applications that we received. Everyone should have them. We received several different versions of the information. And so, as you can see, we have just in general the organizations by alphabetical order, but then we also have them by score order. And so for the sake of this meeting, for us to all stay on the same page, I would ask that all committee members reference the document that uses score and ranking order as we go through and discuss.
mean, like
I mean,
all right.
I was waiting.
Well,
I don't know. Anybody feel free at
Just
this
want to preface
time.
on my comments by, one of the things I'm taking in consideration as I go through this is there are a couple agencies last year that I thought, did a wonderful job for us last year. Agencies that I thought did some things relative to our strategic plan that received lump sum monies. And I am going to be considering some of those agencies primarily because they've demonstrated what they can do as a result of their use of the lump sum funds the last time, which was not available to them this time.
Thank you, Mr. Livingston. All right, hearing no other comments or questions, I now will open the floor for motions as it relates to award, and we can take them. I don't want to go one by one through the list, but we can take them if you have one or two at a time you'd like to make, and any particular order is just fine. Mr. Livingston, you're recognized.
Just reference my comment. I like to just make a motion reference to two organizations. One of them is Communities in Schools, and the other one is the Career Development Center Workforce Program at St. John.
Sorry, was that a motion?
That's a motion for approval for those two at the requested amount.
Thank you.
And that was my rationale, main rationale.
I would second the motion to ask if we could just split up the vote between those two organizations.
So are you asking Mr. Livingston to amend his motion?
Yes.
Mr. Livingston, would you like to amend your motion at all?
Did I get a second to it?
He seconded if you were willing to amend it and split the motion instead of doing both of them together. So you would have to, as the maker of the motion, you would have to decide if you choose to accept that or not.
No, let me keep them both together.
All right. So we have the original motion on the floor for communities in schools and St. John. Is there a second?
I'll second it for discussion.
Thank you. We have a motion and a second, and we're now in discussion.
I plan to, Madam Chair.
Mr. Branham, you're recognized.
Thank you. I plan to vote in favor of communities and schools, just not as familiar with the other organization. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Livingston, I'm sorry. Ms. English, you're recognized.
Both sheets that I have here don't have the score on them, but I do see it here, but not able to just kind of flip through. Do we have another one?
Any other discussion? Ms. Barron, you're recognized.
Thank you. So to the point that I made earlier, I'm in full support of the work that both of these organizations do, and they have done an excellent job for us in the past. My challenge specifically to this vote, and I am like really hard down in the bottom of my head praying for the right answer to come up. And that is, one scored very low. And my only rationale that I can go with in supporting this one is because they do have a track record for many years for the work that they've done in the community, which lends to another discussion at another date, and that is how or if the county does provide resources to ensure that those organizations who have done such an excellent job for us when it comes time to do things, that we also provide them additional technical assistance to ensure that their paperwork aligns with the programmatic things that they do.
Thank you, Ms. Barron. Any other discussion? All right, hearing none, we'll take the vote.
Branham,
No?
Livingston,
Yes.
Barron,
Yes.
Mackey,
Yes?
English.
Yes.
Motion approved.
And before we go into the next, Administrator Brown, can we confirm that we are adding this as we go, and I'm assuming someone will raise their hand as we get close to the maybe $100,000 left mark?
ACA Thomas has communicated she is tabulating, so she just asked as you make your decisions, if you could continue to be at a moderate speed. We want you to get through it, but not too fast, so we can tabulate.
So this isn't like on TV, there's no live calculator running a tally on the screen?
No,
Automatic, right?
Okay, thank you,
No
Mr.
pressure,
Brown.
y'all.
I bet you can't make that appear.
All right, I will entertain any other motions.
Man,
Okay, so first we'll have Ms. English, followed by Ms. Barron.
Madam Chair, I have 3 recommendations, and do I need to break them down, or can I put them
This
all
is your
together?
motion, so however you want to present them.
Okay. Tri-City Visionaries, Serve and Connect, and Olympia, the foundation. And the one that most are not familiar with is Serve and Connect, and they did receive a low score. However, they have already been out in the community, and they have been working not just with the community, but also with those with developmental disabilities. Really like them and have seen some of the work, but again, like Ms. Barron has stated, we need to make sure that they have a good understanding. I feel like they will do the work, but in completing the paperwork, they may need assistance. But those are my 3.
Got Serve and Connect, what was the other one?
Tri-City Visionaries and Olympia,
Foundation.
the foundation.
is that Olympia Granby Historical Foundation?
Yes.
Madam Chair,
Give me just 1 minute, Ms. Newton. So I want to make sure we got it right. It is Tri-City Visionaries,
Yes.
Serve and Connect,
This is the Olympia Community Education Foundation.
Olympia Community Education Foundation.
Yeah, that one.
Okay. And so at this point, you made a motion for those 3 organizations.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. Is there a second? All right, I'll second. Now we're into discussion. Ms. Newton, you're recognized.
thank you, Madam Chair. I just wanted to ask a question. I've heard a few times this idea of staff helping people with county paperwork. And I guess I would just like to understand a little bit more about what we mean by that. Certainly, we need to make our process clear. We need to make our process transparent. We need to be available to answer questions that people have. Sometimes, and I'm not saying at this particular meeting, I've heard things that have almost sounded like we need to have staff on hand that just helps people with their paperwork or does it for them. I guess I'm just trying to understand the level of involvement that people are asking for, because I know that, again, we want to provide assistance, and at the same time, you know, we're staffed to review and evaluate the grants, but we don't have like a grants training department. So I was just wondering if someone could share more information about what some of these desires are.
So if I would, can I ask just to table that answer right now? We're in discussion related to this motion, and then I think we can discuss that when we come out of discussion related to this motion.
Sure, and that's fine. I only
Okay.
mentioned it here because it was put as a point related to this vote. Thank you.
Madam Chair,
Yes, ma'am.
if I may get clarification again. So there is the Olympia Granby Historical Foundation, and then
Is the Olympia Community Educational Foundation.
so it is the Educational Foundation.
Olympia Community Educational Foundation.
Okay, thank you.
Any other discussion? Ms. Barron, you're recognized.
Thank you. And so I just want to just go on the record for why I'm voting, but I will be voting no. And that is that this group, probably if it was separated a little bit, I might be able to support it. But this group is is heavy with scores that are very low, and one of which I'm familiar with, and the others I'm not as familiar with, and so I'm not very comfortable with voting yes. So I will be voting no.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Mr. Livingston, you're recognized.
Did Servant Connect get another funding source? I thought I remember us funding them for something else this year. Do you recall?
Yes, sir, they received ARPA allocation.
That
For
amount?
food insecurity, $77,477.
Right?
And that was one of my concerns with the whole list, is because I remember them receiving, I thought was a reasonable sum of money, and just want to give others an opportunity. And city vision, and looking at, county's primary strategic plan in terms of how it might fit and all. I don't have any problem with that one, but just my concern with that is the total amount of $50,000. So that's kind of where I am with this.
Okay. Any other discussion? Ms. Barron, you recognize?
Just one other point that I want to just link with Mr. Livingston's point, and so that, I won't say it again, I'll just say it here, and that is, I did look at this list in comparison to the list that ACA Thomas provided for us, that of those organizations that have already received funding, ARPA funds, and the amount of dollars that they did receive, as well as, and I know we didn't preface this in our application, but as well as the programming part of it, because it would appear that it could be a possibility of us funding the same program twice. And so that's something, as we move forward, we probably need to be a little clearer in our application process. But I agree with you, Mr. Livingston.
Mr. Livingston?
Make substitute. That we divide the question on these, because I don't want all of them to fail.
Made a substitute motion.
Divide the
Sorry,
question.
to divide the question.
So we split them up. Yeah.
Okay, oh, I missed that part. I thought you said I had a question.
All right, Ms. English?
I'm fine with that.
Okay. All right, so who would like to state then the first one?
Madam Chair, we need a second for that motion.
She did.
Second.
Okay. Thank you.
Apologize, I thought you counted Ms. English as a second, sorry. All right, so as the maker of the motion who would like to separate them all, which one would you like to go through first?
Let's do Olympia.
All right, can someone make a motion?
I move that we fund Olympia Community Foundation, or Foundation Community. Y'all forgive me looking at these things. Olympia Community Education Foundation in the amount of $50,000. I don't want it.
Questions? No.
Forgive me, I just have the alphabet.
So we have a motion for the Olympia Community Educational Foundation in the amount of $50,000. Is there a second?
Just for discussion, just let me express my concern again. It's not that I'm against it, but I just think that because of some organizations and so forth, to give $50,000 to a brand new organization that I'm not clear on, and, just didn't want to. And Thompson, it's not correct that we don't have to necessarily go by the requested amount. I mean, we can give them anything we want to, right?
That's correct, sir.
We had a motion and a second. We're now in discussion. Is there any other comments?
I'll just say I agree with Mr. Livingston.
Yes, I'm sorry.
I would, 5,000.
All right, so are you making a substitute motion, Mr. Livingston?
I was just saying that from his,
Oh, okay, so you're saying it for your reference. Did you hear him? Okay.
I'll also move then, yeah. For Olympic, not education, whichever one that was,
The Olympia Community Educational Foundation.
Because there was two of them, yeah, okay. The Education Foundation is what I'm talking about,
Okay,
for $25,000. That's my motion.
all right. Ms. Livingston made a motion, a substitute motion for the Olympia Community Educational Foundation in the amount of $25,000. Is there a second?
I will second that.
Second by Ms. English. Any other discussion? There should be none. All right, we'll call for the vote.
No.
Livingston,
Yes?
Barron,
No?
Mackey,
Yes.
English.
Yes.
Motion approved.
All right. I believe you had another one. Was the second one on your list, Ms. English?
I actually had two more, the
Okay.
Tri-City Vision. Now, forgive me. I've been going over one with a fine-tooth comb, and then when I got a new one when I got here, so please forgive me.
Madam Chair,
Mr. Brown?
the question was divided, so if Ms. English just wants to focus on the very next one, and then she could find the third one, since you divided the question.
Yes, sir.
Same with, I'm sorry, I move Tri-City Visionaries, Inc., move to fund them at $50,000.
We have a motion. Is there a second? Second. Any discussion? Ms. Bear?
Yeah,
You good?
I don't
Okay.
want to,
All right.
I don't want to
Here-
keep saying the same thing over again. So
That's fine.
just note that I will probably vote no on a lot of these that have scored low or have asked for 100% of their project because it is a new project. So I'm a little more open to negotiating amounts with some of them. But yeah, I'm done.
Any other discussion? All right. So we have Tri-City Visionaries in the amount of $50,000. That is the current motion that is before us. Madam Clerk, would you call for the vote?
No.
Livingston,
No.
Barron,
No?
Mackey,
Yes.
English.
Yes.
Motion fails.
All right. Ms. English?
And the last one is I'm sorry. I move that we find it. Fund Serve and Connect. Well, I'm sorry. Before I do that, are they the ones that received ARPA funds already?
Yes.
I'm going to hold off on any more motions right now until we reach the end. Thank you.
Yes, Mr. Branham, you're recognized.
Are we ready for another motion?
We are at this point, yes, sir.
Okay. I want to move that we recommend funding Epworth's Children's Home at the amount of $25,000, which would be 50% of the amount that they requested.
Second?
The motion and a second for Epworth's Children's Home at $25,000. Any discussion?
Ms. Mackey?
Yes, Ms. Barron, you recognized.
Just wanted to acknowledge the fact that this is also a group that has already received ARPA funds.
Thank you. And I do want to, I understand everyone's wanting to make that a point, but I do want to highlight that in the application that the committee put out and council put out, the only requirements that precluded folks from funding that we stated were if they had previously received hospitality or accommodation tax money. So those folks that did receive those have been deemed ineligible. So we did not state in our application that ARPA was a disqualifying factor. So we can mention that in discussion, but I want to make sure that no organizations feel as if that is the sole reason necessarily, because we did not state that in the application when it was advertised. Yes, sir. Mr. Livingston, you recognize?
I'm sorry.
Packet that was on your desk.
It was $131,901.
Ms. Barron, you recognize?
Yes, and so I appreciate you bringing that up because I don't think that it is a sole factor for voting, but I do think that in given the fact that the large number of applicants that we do have, that, you know, we want to be good stewards over the funds that we have, and to also look at opportunities for different organizations or new organizations, like what we just did a moment ago in one of the motions that we just provided. So I want us to still, even though I know it's not a disqualifying factor, I want to go on the record to say that we want to fund as many of these organizations as we can, and to get as many people an opportunity and a seat at the table.
Any other discussion?
Madam Chair.
Here, Mr. Brandon.
That's right. All very important points in my opinion, and that was certainly one reason that, as to Epworth, that I recommended half the amount requested, because I'm not as confident whenever I'm funding 100% of whatever the initiative is. And just as a general comment, as to me, I'm looking for those who are most in need, who are least able to help themselves when it comes to these grants. So, and the ones that I have the most trust and confidence in, the organizations. So it's no offense to any organization if I vote no. I just may not be familiar yet. That's partly a factor of the fact I'm new to county council, but appreciate Epworth Children's Home work. They are a long-time establishment in the Midlands community. Thank them for the work and the services they do.
Thank you. And Councilwoman Newton, if you have anything to say, you just got to speak up, because I can't see your hand at all. So I don't want to leave you out of the conversation if you have any thoughts. All right, hearing none, Madam Clerk, would you call for the vote?
Brenham,
Yes.
Livingston, Barron,
Yes.
Mackey,
Yes.
English.
Yes.
Motion approved.
Okay. I'd like to make a motion for Northeast Columbia Empowerment Coalition and the RAM Foundation.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Any discussion?
What was those amounts? I'm sorry, I can't keep up.
The Northeast Columbia Empowerment Coalition for $50,000, the RAM Foundation for $20,000. We have a motion and a second. We're in discussion. Any other comments? Madam Clerk?
Brenham,
No.
Livingston,
Yes.
Barron,
Yes.
Mackey,
Yes?
English.
Yes.
Motion approved.
All right. Mr. Livingston?
Can I get a total now so I can see how close I'm getting to it?
You're nowhere near. 30
Before we
minutes.
move any further.
Yes.
Mr. Chair, if you give us, Madam Chair, if you give us a few moments,
$220,000. So you still have a remainder of $652,000.
All right.
Madam Chair.
You recognize, Ms. Barron.
Thank you. I'd like to make a motion for Turn 90 in the amount of $50,000. The Midlands Technical College Foundation in the amount of $50,000. Girl Scouts of South Carolina Mountains to the Midlands in the amount of $16,000. And lastly, the Southeastern Chapter of the National Safety Council in the amount of $8,500.
We have a motion on the floor. Is there a second?
I will second for discussion.
I'd ask for a motion to divide.
Second motion to divide.
All right. We have a motion and a second to divide. Madam Clerk.
Branham,
This is the vote on the motion to divide? Yes.
Livingston,
Yes.
Barron,
Yes?
Mackey,
Yes.
English.
Yes.
Motion approved.
Ms. Barron.
Yes, so the first one, I make a motion to fund Turn 90 in the amount of $50,000.
Second. Any discussion? Madam Clerk?
Branham,
No.
Livingston,
Yes.
Barron,
Yes?
Mackey,
Yes.
English.
Yes.
Motion approved.
Ms. Barron.
I'd like to make a motion to fund Midlands Technical College Foundation in the amount of $50,000.
Second. Any discussion?
Branham,
Yes.
Livingston, Barron,
Yes?
Mackey,
Yes.
English.
Yes.
Motion approved.
Ms. Barron.
I'd like to make a motion to fund Girl Scouts of South Carolina Mountains to the Midlands in the amount of $16,000.
Second.
Motion and second. Any discussion? Madam Clerk?
Branham,
Yes.
Livingston, Barron,
Yes?
Mackey,
Yes.
English.
Yes.
Motion approved.
Ms. Barron.
I'd like to make a motion to fund the Southeastern Chapter of the National Safety Council in the amount of $8,500.
I'll second. Any discussion? I will say I'm not as familiar with this organization, but they have seemed to score pretty well, and with the minimal acts for their program, I'm inclined to support to see how they could impact the community. Any other discussion? All right, Madam Clerk.
Branham,
No.
Livingston, Barron,
Yes?
Mackey,
Yes.
English.
Yes.
Motion approved.
Madam Clerk?
Hold on just a minute. Does that conclude all of yours?
Yeah,
That we need
that-
to separate?
Yes.
Okay, Mr. Branham, you recognize.
Thank you. I'd like to move that we recommend funding Indian Waters Council Boy Scouts of America at $16,000 to be in line with the Girl Scouts funding that was just approved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the Boy Scouts Indian, I can't find it on my list, sorry. Oh, Indian Waters Council Boy Scouts of America in the amount of $16,000. Any discussion? Oh, no, this is on my. Recognize Ms. Barron.
Yes. And so I note what my colleague said to be in line with the motion that was previously made for the Girl Scouts. There's a major difference here, and the major difference is the scoring. However, I will say that as an educator, we cut off at 70 when you, as far as a good score. This is right at the edge. It's pushing me, Mr. Branham, but I'm going to go with you.
Mr. Livingston?
Madam Chair, I'd like to move to support the Austin Wilkes Society at the requested $15,000,
I know, hold on.
which happens to be the top one on the list.
Okay, well, hold on, Mr. Lipsy. You hold your motion. We are still in discussion for the Boy Scouts, so.
Oh, I thought we voted on that one.
No.
I apologize.
No.
I couldn't hold it. I couldn't hold it.
We're in discussion related to the Indian Warriors Council, Boy Scouts of America, in the amount of $16,000. We had a motion and a second. Hearing no other discussion, Madam Clerk, would you call for the vote?
Brenham,
Yes.
Livingston.
Yes.
Barron,
Yes.
Mackey,
Yes,
English.
Yes.
Motion approved.
thank you. Mr. Livingston, you recognized.
Support the Awesome Book Society at the requested amount of $15,000.
Second. Any discussion? Ms.
Yeah.
Barron, you recognized?
So, Mr. Livingston, we had this conversation about ARPA funds and, those kind of things. You want to adjust their amount?
Well, just because it was so low from the beginning at 15, if it was 50,000, you better believe I would have.
Okay, I hear you. All right.
Any other discussion? All right. Madam Clerk, would you take the vote?
Brenham,
Yes.
Livingston,
Yes.
Barron,
Yes.
Mackey,
Yes.
English.
Yes.
Motion approved.
All right. Can we get a current tabulation?
You're a long way away. 375,500, leaving you 496,500.
Thank you, ACA Thomas.
Madam Clerk, I've got a motion.
Mr. Branham, would you like the chair to consider your motion?
Yes.
Okay. What was your?
Only after you've had that sip of Diet Coke. Would the chair hear the motion?
I'd be glad to, yes.
Okay, thank you. Harvest Hope Food Bank, I'd like to move to approve that funding request at $10,000.
Second.
A motion and a second for Harvest Hope Food Bank in the amount of $10,000. Any other discussion? Find it on my sheet. All right, Madam Clerk?
Brenham,
Yes.
Livingston. Barron,
Yes.
Mackey,
Yes.
English.
Yes.
Motion approved.
All right.
Question.
Mr. Livingston, you recognized.
Able, South Carolina, did they receive ARPA funds?
I'm not showing that they did, Mr.
Oh.
Chair, Madam Chair, Mr. Livingston.
Have a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Barron. Any discussion? All right, we have a motion and a second for Able, South Carolina in the amount of $20,166. Okay. All right, Madam Clerk?
Brenham,
No.
Livingston. Barron,
Yes.
Mackey,
Yes?
English.
I'm going to recuse myself. They are a part of our collaboration with the company I work with.
Motion passes.
Thank you. Mr.
Madam-
Livingston, you recognized?
Question. The item, the Columbia Resiliency, is that the same program that was with the United Way or whatever, do we know? That resiliency program with the United Way? Mhm. Which is-
I'm sorry, that this was actually filed by a group called Columbia Resilience, so not the United Way.
Okay. Ms. Barron, did you have something? Okay. Sorry, I know I didn't want to cut you off from earlier.
I'd like to make a motion to fund the WK Cluster STEAM Booster Club in the amount of $14,855.
I have a motion. Is there a second? I'll second. Any discussion? We have a motion and a second for the WJK Cluster STEAM Booster Club in the amount of $14,855. Ms. Barron, you recognized?
And to be clear, the WJK is the WJ Keenan, well, so that's Keenan High School, to be clear.
All right. Madam Clerk?
Brenham,
No.
Livingston, Barron,
Yes?
Mackey,
Yes?
English.
Yes.
Motion approved.
Sure. ACA Thomas, could you provide a total, please?
Yes, ma'am, $420,521.
Thank you. I'd like to,
What we got left? That's what we
451,000.
have left, not what we spent, huh?
Well, no, you spent $420,521. You have left $451,479.
I'd like to make a motion for Palmetto Place Children and Youth Services in the amount of $50,000, and then Sister Care in the amount of $26,000.
Second?
A motion and a second. Any discussion?
What was the first one?
Palmetto Place Children and Youth Services. Madam Clerk, would you call the vote, please?
Brenham,
Yes.
Livingston, Barron,
Yes?
Mackey,
Yes?
English.
Yes.
Motion approved.
Madam Chair?
Yes, Ms. Barron.
I'd like to make a motion for the Northeast Columbia Empowerment Coalition, and
Ms. Barron, that one we've already voted
we already
on.
did that one?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, I apologize. I didn't mark it off. So I'd like to continue then.
Okay.
Make a motion for Midlands Education and Business Alliance. She did that Community Advocate Foundation and the Goodwill Industries of the Upstate Midlands, South Carolina, Inc.
We have a motion. Is there a second?
I accept the motion to divide those. Can't keep up with them.
We have a substitute motion to divide those.
I'll second.
Second. All right.
Sorry.
And which one? Talk about it again?
Midlands Education
That me.
Alliance. She did that Community Advocate Foundation and Goodwill.
All right. I'll make a motion for the Midlands Education and Business Alliance in the amount. Oh, sorry. Thank you. I was wondering why we were sitting here. Madam Clerk, would you call the vote to divide the question?
Brenham,
Yes.
Livingston,
Yes.
Barron,
Yes?
Mackey,
Yes.
English.
Yes.
Motion approved.
Thank you. Ms. Barron?
I'd like to make a motion to fund the Midlands Education and Business Alliance in the amount of $10,000.
Second. Any discussion? Madam Clerk?
Brenham,
No.
Livingston, Barron,
Yes.
Mackey,
Yes?
English.
Yes.
Motion approved.
I'd like to make a motion to fund She Did That Community Advocate Foundation in the amount of $50,000.
Is there a second? Second for discussion. Any discussion? All right, Madam Clerk?
Brenham,
No.
Livingston,
No.
Barron,
Yes.
Mackey,
No?
English.
No.
Motion fails.
Aaron? You have one more, right? Yes. Okay.
I'd like to make a motion to fund the Goodwill Industries of the Upstate Midlands, South Carolina, Inc., in the amount of $50,000.
Second. Any discussion?
Substitute motion
Ms. Livingston?
on Goodwill at $25,000.
Second.
Okay, we had a substitute motion for Goodwill Industries of Upstate Midland, South Carolina, the amount of $25,000, and it was seconded. Any discussion? Madam Clerk?
Brenham,
Yes.
Livingston,
Yes.
Barron,
Yes.
Mackey,
Yes.
English.
Yes.
Motion approved.
I'd like to,
Livingston, you recognize?
I'd suggest to make it easier when we get the full council, not appropriate all the money, so that if someone, but if appropriate all the money and get the full council, someone wants something different, we have to take some from one place and add it to another place, so we're probably better off not allocating the entire amount, leaving a little something.
Well, Mr. Livingston, I do believe it's the duty of the committee to allocate all $872,000. Any committee members that wanted, or council members could have been here to provide
I didn't think that
that.
was the duty of the committee, but okay.
You don't think so?
I think the duty of the committee was to recommend whatever we wanted to recommend, but okay.
But if we recommend up to the amount of the 87, that's just like any other recommendation we bring to council, we would have fulfilled our recommendation to the full amount. But to leave it there and then to bring this before council with only a partial recommendation,
I could see it working both ways. So we'll see when we get to council.
I am open to any other comments related to the body or viewpoints regarding that. But I would like to remind everybody that based on this application, we do have a very tight timeline to begin dispersing funds October 1st. And so that is also a consideration that I want to make sure we take as we evaluate recommendations going to the full council. Am I good?
Madam Chair,
Yes, ma'am.
I'd like to make a motion. And I'll only do two. And that would be for the Brooklyn Center for Community Economic Change in the amount of $50,000, as well as the Columbia International University in the amount of $49,665.
We have a motion for Brooklyn Center for Community Economic Change, and then the other one was, I'm trying to find it.
It's Columbia International University, but it has the address on the top of it. So it says 7435
Oh, okay.
Monticello Road,
And that amount was,
$49,665.
we have a motion. I'll second. Mr. Livingston?
Question,
Yes, sir.
Mr. Brooklyn,
A.C. Thomas?
The address on the application was a Columbia address.
Brooklyn Lake Empowerment Center. That's the Brooklyn Lake.
Any other discussion? Ms. Barron?
So there is a portion of West Columbia that's in Richland County, right? I don't know if that is the case, if this is where that's located.
Casey for sure, I'm not sure about West Columbia.
If there's a person that has better geography skills than me, they may want to answer. No, it is not.
What,
Portions of West Columbia are not in Richland County.
Casey was, no.
Okay, that's Casey.
But I just think that's something we need to know before we can go ahead and do it and find out later.
If you'd like to consider moving on to the other applicant, I can pull the application and check.
I'm willing to do that, but I will say that would, to me, that should have been something that have been eliminated from the beginning. And I don't know when we look at the address, what we go on, if we put it in GIS or what, I'm not sure. We just trust the system, trust what they report.
Yes, ma'am.
Noted. Yeah, so Madam Chair, I'll make a substitute motion and allow staff to be able to pull that up. So I'll make a motion for Columbia International University in the amount of $49,665.
Second. Hearing no other discussion, this vote is for Columbia International University only in the amount of $49,665. Madam Clerk?
Brenham,
No.
Livingston, Barron,
Yes?
Mackey,
Yes.
English.
Yes.
Motion approved.
Madam Chair,
Yes, Ms. English, you're recognized.
I make a motion for Homeless No More in the amount of $50,000.
Second?
A motion and a second. Any discussion? Any discussion? All right. Madam Clerk?
Brenham,
Yes.
Livingston, Barron,
Yes?
Mackey,
Yes.
English.
Yes.
Motion approved.
ACA Thomas, can you give us a
Yes, ma'am.
tally?
A tally, just one
Yes.
second. $631,186, leaving $240,814. And I do have a response on the Brooklyn question. This is for an expansion of their facilities in the northeast area. And so the location is in Richland County.
Thank you so much to staff for digging through 737 pages to find that. Thank you. Ms. Barron?
Yes, so I'd like to make a motion to fund the Brooklyn Center for the Community Economic Change in the amount of $50,000.
Second.
A motion and a second. Any discussion? Madam Clerk?
Brenham,
No.
Livingston, Barron,
Yes?
Mackey,
Yes.
English.
Yes.
Motion approved.
Mr. Livingston?
Hermeto Place for Children and Youth.
Yes, we got those.
I had a check, but wasn't sure.
We did. Any other discussion? Well, that'll be a good point. Let me take a break now and read who we have so far. Communities in School, St. John Church, Olympia Community Foundation, Epworth Children's Home, Northeast Columbia Empowerment Coalition, the Ram Foundation, Turn 90, Midlands Technical College, Girl Scouts Mountain to Midlands, the Southern Eastern Chapter of something else, Boy Scouts, Alston Wilkes, Harvest Hope, Able SC, WJK Cluster, STEAM, the Palmetto Place, Sister Care, Midlands Education Business Alliance, Goodwill Industries, Homeless No More, Columbia International University, and Brooklyn Center for Community Economic Change. So I have 22 organizations thus far.
I have a motion.
Ms. Brandon, recognized.
Move to fund the Midlands Area Food Bank's application for $50,000.
Second.
A motion and a second. Any discussion?
Madam Chair, can you repeat the motion? We were talking.
Sure. Councilman Branham made a motion to fund the Midlands Area Food Bank at the amount of $50,000. And there was a second. And we are currently in discussion. Sorry, I forgot that detail.
Thank you.
Yes. Mr. Livingston, I'm sorry, were you going to say anything before I call for the vote? Okay, great. You good? Oh, okay. Ms. Barron, you recognize. I was looking to see that.
Yeah, so this is one of those that didn't score as high as some of the other ones that we're funding. And this one does challenge me somewhat because I'm familiar with the work that they've been doing. So very similarly to some of the other ones that scored poorly, but have been doing the work in the community. I'm toying with my vote to note that because I think that what they're doing is important and we need it in the Northeast community tremendously. So I just want to go on the record to say that we've got to do, and I know Ms. Newton brought the point up, and this is not the time for us to discuss it, but we really have to do, and maybe it's not the job of council or Richland County. Perhaps it is us being creative in our approach to provide resources for these organizations so that their paperwork looks like what they're doing. Because there's no doubt in my mind, like people like the Midlands Food Bank, they're doing an excellent job. But when you read their paperwork, you're like, I don't know. And it makes it hard for us to have to fund programs like this. We know what you're doing, but that's not what's being presented. So I just want to admonish this body at another time, probably in another setting, for us to really think about, if this is a priority for us to put our nonprofits at the forefront of our county, that we would, really look at doing something to support them so that they fare well on the administrative side. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Barron, and also thank you for bringing up the fact, Councilwoman Newton, I apologize, because I tabled your question earlier and then we kept going to the votes, and I do want to make sure that we save time to have that conversation as well that you mentioned, so I apologize for that. All right, we are had a motion and a second, and we are currently in discussion. Any other comments? Madam Clerk?
Branham,
Yes.
Livingston,
Yes.
Barron,
Yes.
Mackey,
Yes.
English.
Yes.
Motion approved.
Madam Chair,
Yes, ma'am.
we're now down to $140,814.
All right. I'd like to make a motion for Healthy Learners.
Second.
A motion, sorry, and I forgot to say the amount. Healthy Learners in the amount of $15,000.
Second.
The motion and a second. Any discussion? Madam Clerk?
Branham,
Yes.
Livingston, Barron,
Yes.
Mackey,
Yes.
English.
Yes.
Motion approved.
Ms. Barron, you recognize.
I'd like to make a motion to fund the Christian Assistance Bridge in the amount of $25,000.
Second. Any discussion? We have a motion and a second for Christian Assistance Bridge in the amount of $25,000. Madam Clerk?
Brenham,
Yes.
Livingston,
No?
Barron,
Yes?
Mackey,
Yes.
English.
Yes.
Motion approved.
ACA Thomas, would you give us a tally?
$771,186, remaining $100,814.
Mr. Livingston, you recognize.
And the Columbia Society.
We have a motion. Is there a second?
My apologies. What did you say, Mr. Livingston?
Nickelodeon Theater, $10,000.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. If you give me a few minutes, I'm trying to find it in my list.
Livingston, what page is that?
I'm sorry, that's under a withheld project?
Oh, no.
Ineligible ones, where are you?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, Mr. Livingston, so that project was deemed ineligible.
I'd asked my question earlier on about what made them ineligible, okay.
There is a spreadsheet in the packet that was distributed to you. I think it's page 18 that would describe all of the reasons for the ineligible projects.
My motion, Madam Chair?
Okay, motion withdrawn.
Madam Chair,
Recognized, Ms. English.
I'm move for Homeworks of America in the amount of $50,000.
The motion, is there a second?
Second.
Motion is second, and I'm trying to find it on my sheet. We're in discussion, thank you. Got it, all right. So we have a motion and a second for Homeworks of America in the amount of $50,000. Madam Clerk?
Brenham,
Yes.
Livingston,
No?
Barron,
Yes?
Mackey,
Yes.
English.
Yes.
Motion approved.
Madam Chair, that leaves $50,814.
We're at that point where there's maybe one or two more that we can fund if the committee so desires. Mr. Branham, you're recognized.
I'd like to move that we fund Our Place of Hope. Their request is for $50,000, but I would be open to modifying my motion to fund them at that level if someone wanted to make that request through a substitute motion.
I'd like to make a substitute motion. And,
Aaron.
thank you. I move to fund Our Place of Hope in the amount of $25,000.
Madam Chair, if we could take that as an amendment to my motion, I'd be happy to accept that friendly amendment.
Great. All right, so we have an amendment to that motion for. Thank you, I lost. Oh, here it is. Our Place of Hope in the amount of $25,000. Any further discussion?
Madam Chair, cities of, communities and schools on that list, on our
Yes.
list? Oh, thank you.
All right, Madam Clerk?
Brenham,
Yes.
Livingston,
No.
Barron,
Yes.
Mackey,
No.
English.
Yes.
Motion approved.
Madam Chair, would it be helpful if I walk through the list by page to tell you who's been funded to this point? Yes, ma'am. Okay, starting on page 1 in the score order.
Already scored. Let me go score the sheet.
Yep. Alston Wilkes, $15,000. Brooklyn Center for Community Economic Change, $50,000. Turn 90, $50,000. Columbia International University, $49,665. Able, South Carolina, $20,166. Midlands Technical College Foundation, $50,000. Communities in School, $50,000. WJK Cluster STEM Booster Club, $14,855. Girl Scouts of South Carolina Mountains to Midlands, $16,000. Epworth Children's Home, $25,000. Northeast Columbia Empowerment Coalition, $50,000. Palmetto Place did I get Northeast Columbia Empowerment Coalition? Okay, thank you. Palmetto Place Children's and Youth Services, this starts page 2, $50,000. Sister Care, $26,000. Southeastern Chapter National Safety Council, $8,500. She Did That Community Advocate Foundation, $10,000.
Amoeba, did we?
I think you're
Oh, it's
skipping
the other
one.
way
It's,
around.
yeah, it's the other way around.
MEBA
It's 10.
is 10. We didn't fund, She Did That.
So Midlands Education and Business Alliance is $10,000. I'm sorry.
Correct.
Thank you. Christian Assistance Bridge, $25,000. Goodwill Industries, $25,000. Healthy Learners, $15,000. The RAM Foundation, $20,000. Career Development Center at St. John's, $50,000. Harvest Hope Food Bank, $10,000. Homeless No More, $50,000. Homeworks of America, $50,000. Indian Waters Council Boy Scouts of America, $16,000. Olympia Community Education Foundation, $25,000. Our Place of Hope, $25,000. Midlands Area Food Bank, $50,000. And that's all.
Madam Chair, I have a motion.
Mr. Brandon, you recognized.
Move to divide evenly the remaining funding between cooperative ministries and Adventure.
Adventure is ineligible. Adventure is ineligible.
Okay, stand corrected that Adventure is ineligible.
So what now is your motion, Mr. Brown?
Motion is to fund cooperative ministry. They did request $50,000, but I'll move to fund them at the balance remaining.
Second.
That's $25,814.
And for discussion, did cooperative ministry receive ARPA funds?
They did.
And do we have that amount?
Just one moment. $95,250. No, I'm sorry. My eyes aren't what they used to be. $138,091.20.
Thank you. Any other discussion? The motion was to fund cooperative ministries at the remaining amount left, which is $25,800. That was the motion. There's a second. We're in discussion. Any other comments or questions? Madam Clerk?
Brenham,
Yes.
Livingston, Barron,
Yes?
Mackey,
No?
English.
Yes.
Motion approved.
So, total, I have, I believe, 27 organizations. Does that sound about right? That this committee will recommend to full council for approval at our next meeting on September 19th. I do, if Ms. Newton's still on, I wanted to, well, I'm sorry, before I leave this, do committee members have any other thoughts or comments related to the final recommendation package that we'll send to full council? Ms. Barron, you're recognized.
Thank you, and I just want to say that, first, Ms. Mackey, thank you for leading and championing this. You know, because we are here in this committee because of a motion that you brought forth either last year or it seems like we've been talking about this since we came on council. But I think that this process has been helpful and to remove some of the automatic stigma of what we did have as lump sum appropriations and puts forth we've started a process. I think that this process still needs work, but it's one of which that I think that we should be proud of. And I just want to encourage the committee as we move forward with this recommendation going to full council that we stand by the work that we did today. And as we stand by the work that we did today, you know, noting that we're going to have to, there may be some modifications and negotiations that we may have to make, but ultimately, you know, over the last hour and 20 minutes, we put the work in, and let's be proud of the work that we put forward and support it when it comes to full council. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Barron. Mr. Livingston, you recognize.
Actually, I just want to thank staff for making it kind of straightforward and easy for me, the way they had it organized. That was very helpful. And then thank you for your references to.
Thank you. I appreciate the kind words. Ms. Newton, are you still there? We have a few minutes. We're scheduled to 3, but a few minutes if you want to discuss your item.
Madam Chair.
Yes, ma'am.
I'm back, and
Yes.
I was really just requesting clarification. So again, at several points, we've talked about assistance to provide to grantors, and I guess I just wanted clarity on that because again, certainly I think we need to be transparent. I think we need to make our process as simple as we can to still get the information that we need to still be good stewards of the public dollars. I just wanted to understand what additional types of assistance they mean, because I'm presuming, of course, that we would answer any kind of questions that people have about our grants. But at the same time, every now and then, not necessarily today, it sounds like people are asking for a full-time person to really not do grant paperwork for people, but to assist in ways that we aren't necessarily staffed for. I guess let me put it that way. And so I guess I just wanted to understand more of what people had in mind when they said that, lest we set expectations that we either can't deliver from a staff perspective or need to fund to be able to deliver from a staff perspective. So I'm really just looking for clarity from the people that express those feelings.
Thank you, Ms. Newton, and I definitely understand and share your concern. I am agreeance and recall that that has been something that has been mentioned in many different meetings as it relates to assistance with grants, and I don't think there has been a clear answer to that along the way. And I guess before we go into maybe some of those that have made those comments, I definitely want to highlight the Community Impacts Grant Committee is one part of many, many, many grants that are offered or made available to citizens in Richland County. And so I know the conversation is being brought here, but I do think it's a larger conversation because not every grant that we offer is the same. Some grants are federal grants that we have no control over necessarily the requirements that are set. And some of those are tied to hospitality dollars that have different regulations. And so I think overall every grant is different, and that statement of maybe assistance may apply to one set of grants that I don't know if we can apply to all grants. I do think it's a conversation that we should probably have holistically about how we want to shape our grants department at the county, and maybe look to grow that conversation in our strategic planning committee as we look at the plan and talk about equitable services and how the county can really reach out into our communities. Maybe that needs to be a part of it. Is that a service that we need to offer people with training similar to how we do with small businesses? But I will be quiet and let maybe someone on the committee who made that comment speak a little to what they might want to envision. But again, I don't think we want to spend a lot of time in it because I'm not sure that it can all be solved in the Community Impact Grants Committee.
May I just say one thing first, Ms. Mackey?
Yes, ma'am.
So certainly, yes, I want to acknowledge what you said and also acknowledge that there are different grants and different kinds of requirements, et cetera. I guess another question when we have the fuller conversation is there a different body that should do that? I know, for example, I think that the United Way of Mecklenburg County offers those kinds of services. So I guess, again, just want to be clear from a staff perspective. I think our staff is doing a great job. And sometimes it seems like we're asking them to do additional jobs, and we can, as long as we're clear on that and resource that. So thanks.
Agree. Ms. English, you recognized?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Well, one of the things, and I think Ms. Barron and I were talking about this, is we absolutely cannot write grants, but we can share what the expectations and the requirements are. But it's up to the individual agencies to make sure that they have those things in place. And so from my perspective, I'm thinking when you call and you ask for assistance, those are the things that our staff is providing, not necessarily getting assistance in writing the grant. The application is written in such a way that you can fill those things in. But if you need further clarification, I feel like our staff can assist you with that. And I could be speaking out of turn, but Mr. Brown, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I do feel like our staff is capable of just answering those general questions.
Madam Chair.
Mr. Livingston, I'm sorry.
I know
Attorney Wright,
I know
you
we look
recognized.
No, I just want to say that when it comes to staff, the one thing that our staff has to be careful about is that there's two things they can't do. Is one, specifically when it comes to helping people with applications or different things, is that they can't give legal advice, they can't give tax advice. So there are certain limitations as to what the type of help that staff can give. They can help them say, okay, this is what you need, the information you need, or this is how you fill out the form, but they can't advise them on certain things. They have to get that from somewhere else.
Thank you, Attorney Wright. Ms. Barron, you recognize? Oh, I'm sorry. Ms. English, you were finished? Okay. Ms. Barron, you recognize?
So I won't repeat what I said earlier, but what I will lift up another point that I have not said since I think budget time, and being someone that came from the grants world, I personally believe that our grants department is not a department, it's an office. We need to support what it is that we're asking them to do, and how do we do that? We fund that department appropriately so that they have the staff that they need to be able to address basic concerns. Because when we create these new opportunities and these new applications, and then it is our expectation that these staff members will do technical assistance workshops and answer all these questions, and that's just one pot of money that they're responsible for. And Mr. Brown, please remind us how many people are in that office?
Since the last budget, we now actually have 3. Before we had 1, and since our last communication, you all did fund a couple of new positions, but we also have added some additional things since that time. So thank you for having this conversation in general, and we'll look forward to the budget cycle. I'm sure Grants is loving this conversation right now.
Yeah, so I don't want to turn this into a budget session, but I think that so often we get bogged down in what we want staff to do, but we don't realistically look at the manpower. We don't look at things. And this is a new. We're doing business differently. And so as we're doing business differently, then we have to make sure that our departments have what they need to be successful. Otherwise, we have to be okay with lowering our expectation of what it is that we're asking them to do without supporting them financially.
Thank you. I think this is all great conversation, and I look forward to future conversations that we have related to grants and just us continuing to grow and creating new processes to continue to serve our citizens in Richland County. Moving forward, as we move into next steps, we are at the point now where we have recommendations for our community partners and our other grant applications to send before the full body. And pending that all those are approved, staff will move forward with distribution beginning October 1st. I would like ACA Thomas, if possible, to just speak on kind of some guidelines that states that when these organizations start receiving funds, that with this process this year, there will be check-ins, there will be additional kind of reporting. And if you could speak a little bit to that about how this committee will continue to be engaged on information related to organizations that receive funding.
Yes, ma'am, thank you. So once the awards are deemed and awarded by council, of course, we would begin to contact the grantees that have been awarded to let them know of this and to actually get the contracts executed or the grant award letters to executed and the grants executed so that we can actually start paying out funds. As with any in the past, there would only be a 25% layout of that payment, and they would have to be in compliance on a quarterly basis, if you recall, to be able to receive additional funds. What we did say was that we would have a mid-year check-in for these groups, that they would have to provide us with a report, and of course we would verify that all expenditures are in line with the guidelines that were laid out in the grant. And additionally, they would have to provide us benchmarks of what's being done. If at some point we do not receive the compliance from these groups, no funding would happen beyond that point. We would stop the funding at that point until they would become compliant. All funds do have to be spent by June 30th because of 2024, because this is a fiscal year 2024 funding. But all along those times, you will be getting updates. I would anticipate probably January, you would get an update from the first half of the year. There would be another check-in at the end of March, so probably April-May timeframe, you'll get another update. And this would also give you some guidelines to be able to work with your committee again as we move into the new budget cycle. I know that this was not a question that you had asked, but one thing that we can also offer to do with these groups so that they realize where they may be able to improve is that we can provide the scoring by category on an email to each group so that they realize the areas of the grant process that they need to work on.
Thank you so much, ACA Thomas. So those are next steps for grants that are awarded. For this committee, I think once we get through this, we want to continue the work and have more meetings to begin our application process for the next fiscal year. I think this was a good application, but along the way, I think we learned some things that could be improved and want to make sure we get an early start in updating that application so we can be ready for the next cycle. So please continue to think of improved processes you'd like to see and just ways that we can continue to make this process equitable for all of our nonprofit partners. Hearing,
A motion, Madam Chair.
oh, yes, sir, Mr. Livingston.
Adjournment?
Second.
I have a motion and a second to adjourn. Madam Clerk?
Livingston,
Yes.
Barron,
Yes.
Mackey,
Yes.
English.
Yes.
Motion approved.
A meeting adjourned.